I was slicing a peach when I found the envelope. It lay there on my dormant creamy, heavy paper, my name written in looping gold calligraphy, as if this were something lovely, as if this was something I'd want to remember. The kind of envelope reserved for joy. I wiped my hands on a towel and stared at it for longer than I should have. There was no return address, but I didn't need one. The handwriting, the audacity. It could only be from him. I peeled the flap open like it might burn me, and there it was. Centered, embossed, pretending to be elegant. You are cordially invited to celebrate the marriage of Richard Allen Thompson and Chloe Rose Winters. Saturday, the 18th of May, at the Windmere Estate. Reception to follow. Richard, my husband for 35 years, the man who once whispered he couldn't sleep unless I was breathing beside him. And Chloe, the intern who baked banana bread and called me Mrs. T like it was cute. They were getting married, and they had invited me. I sat down at the kitchen table, the invitation trembling in my hands. Not because I wanted to cry, those tears dried up the day the divorce papers came. No, I was trembling because something inside me cracked open. Who does that? Who leaves a woman after nearly 4 decades, moves in with someone the age of his youngest niece, and then sends out invitations like it's just another chapter in a fairy tale? I could almost hear his voice explaining it. It's the right thing to do, Marianne. We want to show there's no bad blood. No bad blood? Was that what he called betrayal now? The last time I'd seen Richard was 2 years ago, in court. He wore that same smug suit he always wore to board meetings, acting like our life together was just another acquisition to be negotiated. I signed the papers without flinching. I wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing me break. But now this? A wedding invitation? I placed it flat on the table. Not torn, not crumpled, just there. I stared at it until the peach slices on the counter turned brown. You see, I'm not the kind of woman who throws plates. I don't key cars or post angry Facebook rants. I was the steady one, the quiet one. The woman who baked birthday cakes from scratch and always knew where the spare batteries were. The kind of woman people forget until they suddenly remember they need her. But this invitation, it didn't break me. It woke me up. That night, I sat in my living room with a cup of chamomile tea. I held the envelope again, turning it over in my hands like it might reveal a secret. And all I kept thinking was, why did he invite me? Was it guilt? A publicity stunt for their rich friends who still pretended to care? Or did he just assume, like always, that I would stay quiet, play nice, and smile on cue? I didn't sleep much that night. I walked through the house, the one I got to keep, though it always felt more like a museum than a home now. Every corner whispered echoes of who I used to be. The kitchen still smelled like cinnamon, even though I hadn't baked in months. The guest room still had the faded quilt my daughter picked out for her summer visits before she moved to Seattle. And on my dresser, in a dusty frame, was a photo of our 25th anniversary. Richard holding my hand. Chloe must have been in college back then, still dreaming of office jobs and men twice her age. I should have thrown the invitation away, or mailed it back with a polite declined. That's what a reasonable woman would do. But I'm not so reasonable anymore, because something in me, something I thought had died, sat up and smiled. Not out of spite, not even anger. It was clarity. I didn't want revenge. I wanted truth. And maybe, just maybe, a little bit of spotlight. Not for drama, not for spectacle. Just one final act, one stage, one microphone. I folded the invitation carefully, slipped it back into the envelope, and placed it next to my teacup. And then, very slowly, I whispered to no one in particular, I think I'll go. I didn't RSVP right away. I kept the invitation on the hallway table, where keys and old receipts usually ended up. I'd glance at it in passing some mornings with a frown, some with a smirk, and once or twice I even laughed. Not out loud, Just that silent, breathy kind of laugh that says, "You've got to be kidding me." But I didn't throw it away, because before I could decide whether I'd walk into that wedding, I had to walk back into my own past, into the quiet corners of a marriage that spanned over 3 decades. 35 years. That's how long Richard and I were married. We met at a hardware store when we were both 26. I was buying paint for my first studio apartment, and he offered to carry it to my car. We talked about neutral tones and bold choices, and before I knew it, I had dinner plans with a man who claimed he didn't believe in soulmates, but believed I might be the exception. For a long time, I believed it too. Richard was charming, ambitious, always in motion. I was softer, drawn to art, to people, to the in-between moments he never seemed to notice. But we made it work. Or rather, I learned to bend, and he learned to accept that bending. I gave up the gallery dream after our daughter, Sophie, was born. Not because Richard asked me to, but because he didn't. He didn't ask, didn't notice the brushes drying less often, the canvases gathering dust. He assumed I'd pause my life for his, and I did. I did it again when he took a promotion that moved us to a city where I knew no one. Again, when he bought the big house with the glass staircase I hated but pretended to love. Again, when Chloe started working at his firm and I laughed at her bad jokes over dinner. I didn't know it then, but I was writing myself out of my own story. And the funny thing? I was good at it. I could throw the perfect dinner party, remember every birthday, pack for business trips without even being asked. I was the kind of wife other women whispered about at baby showers. How does she do it all? And I smiled, as if the answer wasn't that I'd become invisible in my own marriage. The first time I suspected something was wrong, Richard came home with Chloe's lipstick on his collar. I told myself it must have been an accident, maybe she leaned in for a hug. But the second time? The third? By then I had stopped asking. When he confessed no guilt, no shame, just cold honesty, I think part of me was almost relieved. Because now, finally, I didn't have to pretend anymore. He said, "You deserve someone who sees you." And I wanted to scream, "I don't need someone new, I needed you to see me when it mattered." But I didn't scream. I nodded. I packed. I walked out with the dignity he never deserved. The divorce was clinical. Clean. He gave me the house, probably out of guilt, though he called it a gesture of goodwill. I accepted. I furnished the guest room with soft colors. I learned to live alone. I even signed up for a painting class at the community center where no one knew my last name or my history. For the first time in years, I started painting again. And that's when I realized I had survived the worst part already. The wedding? That was just a footnote. But here's the thing. When someone betrays you, people expect you to either collapse or rage. They don't expect calm. They don't expect elegance. They certainly don't expect you to walk into their fairy tale wearing your own crown. Which is exactly why I started thinking, what if I went? Not to ruin it. Not to make a scene. But to reclaim my space in a story everyone had tried to write me out of. They say weddings are about love. But sometimes they reveal the lies we've told to protect it. And I had 35 years of silence behind me. Maybe it was time I finally said something out loud. After the divorce, the silence was the strangest part. Not the silence in the house, I had made peace with that. I grew to like the sound of nothing. The kettle's soft whistle. The creak of hardwood as I padded barefoot to the front door. The click of the porch light switching on at dusk. No, the silence that shook me was the one that came from people. The friends. The couples we used to travel with, drink wine with, exchange Christmas cards with. One by one, they vanished. Some of them sent polite texts. "Thinking of you, Marianne. Let's catch up soon." But soon never came. Others simply disappeared. I'd see their photos on Facebook, Richard and Chloe in the background of brunches and fundraisers. The same people who once said I was the glue that held everything together now toasting mimosas with the woman who shattered it all. And I didn't chase them. I'd chased too much already: my marriage, my place in his world, my own reflection. Instead, I started going where no one knew who I had been. There was a Tuesday evening watercolor class at the Community Arts Center, mostly women, mostly quiet. At first, I kept to myself. I painted still lifes and shadows, hands that shook when holding a brush again. But little by little, the colors deepened. My lines steadied. That's where I met Angela, a widow who wore too many scarves and laughed too loud. And May, who said she was between husbands and painted angry red flowers. And Dina, who'd been ghosted by her own children after a messy inheritance battle. None of us said it out loud, but we all understood the same thing. You can be erased in a dozen different ways without anyone ever saying your name. After class, we'd sometimes grab tea, sit under the yellow bulbs of the local cafe, pass cookies around, and talk about everything but the past until, inevitably, it crept in. One night, I told them about the wedding invitation. Angela almost choked on her scone. "Wait," she said. "You mean to tell me your ex-husband is marrying the woman he cheated with, and he invited you?" I nodded. May shook her head slowly. "Honey, that's not just disrespectful, that's theatrical." "I think they expect me not to come," I said, stirring my tea, "that I'll stay silent, gracious, unseen." Dina leaned in, eyes sharp. "Then show up. But don't show up as who you were. Show up as who you've become." I smiled. It wasn't a dramatic moment, no music, no swelling inspiration. But something settled in my chest that night, like a coin dropping into place. They didn't know the old Marianne. And maybe that's why they saw me more clearly than anyone ever had. At home, I found myself staring at my closet. It had been a long time since I dressed for anything other than comfort. My wardrobe was full of muted tones, grays, soft blues, forgiving cuts. They were safe, invisible. But if I went to that wedding, I didn't want to disappear into the wallpaper. I wanted to walk in like the woman they forgot still existed. Not to make a scene, but to be seen. I booked an appointment at the one boutique in town that didn't smell like polyester and disappointment. I let a stylist named Camille dress me in colors I hadn't worn since my 30s, deep emerald, dusky rose, a gold shawl that shimmered just enough. She stood behind me in the mirror and said, "You look powerful." And for a fleeting second, I believed her. I bought the dress, and the shoes, and the tiny jeweled pin that looked like a phoenix because that night over tea, Dina had said, "You're not going back into the fire, you're rising out of it." Later, I called my daughter Sophie. She didn't answer right away, time zones and toddler bedtimes, but she called back the next morning. "Mom," she said, after I told her everything. "You're seriously going?" "Yes," I said simply. A pause. "Please tell me you're not going to, throw cake or anything?" I laughed. "No, I'm going to tell the truth." Another pause, but this one was different. She exhaled slowly. "Then I think you should go." And then, as if she'd been holding it in, "He never really saw you." "I did. I always did." My throat tightened. I wasn't ready for that, but I nodded even though she couldn't see. After we hung up, I stood in front of my easel and started a new painting. It wasn't a flower or a bowl of fruit. It was a woman, mid-step, walking away from a burning house with something glowing in her hands. I wasn't sure yet what it was, but I knew it wasn't anger. It was clarity. I didn't write a speech, at least not in the beginning. I told myself I was just attending like any other guest. Just sitting through the ceremony, maybe clapping politely, sipping a glass of overpriced Chardonnay, and leaving before the cake was cut. But I knew better. You don't survive 35 years of swallowing silence and show up to your ex-husband's wedding just to make small talk at the shrimp cocktail table. So I started writing. Not a speech, exactly. More like fragments, truths. Words that had never made it past my lips when they were supposed to. Words I owed not to Richard but to myself. I wrote them in the back of my sketchbook, between color studies and unfinished landscapes. One page said, You can build a man from the ground up and still be the one he forgets once he sees the view from the top. Another. Grace isn't staying quiet, it's speaking with a steady voice when no one expects you to. I wasn't planning a takedown. I was planning an exit. Not from the wedding. From the role they had trapped me in for so long, the discarded, the dignified, the done. I wanted to say something that couldn't be reworded in a gossip column. Something that would live only in the hush between breaths when people don't know whether to clap or cry. The dress arrived a week before the wedding. It was the color of deep ocean right before a storm, rich, dark, impossible to ignore. It wasn't showy. It didn't sparkle, but it owned every inch of space it touched. Camille had it tailored to skim just right, not tight, not loose. It hugged me like it knew the story behind every scar. When I put it on, I didn't see the ex-wife. I saw a woman who had survived loving someone who didn't love her back properly and came out more whole, not less. I bought the shoes too. Low heels but pointed toes, just sharp enough. The final touch was the phoenix pin. It sat just below my collarbone, a small golden flicker. I didn't need anyone to ask what it meant. It wasn't for them. 2 nights before the wedding, I found myself standing in the kitchen, staring at a bottle of wine I'd been saving since the divorce was finalized. Not for celebration, just in case I ever felt ready. I poured 1 glass. To Marianne, I thought. The woman who used to make excuses, who used to shrink herself, who memorized Richard's lunch orders but forgot what her own favorite flower was. The woman who once waited 3 hours outside a hotel room in Palm Springs, only to hear giggles from behind the door and said nothing. And then the woman who finally walked away, with no fireworks, just quiet, steady steps. I drank to her, all versions of her. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I opened a drawer and pulled out the old photo box, the one I had tucked away, too unsure whether keeping it was strength or masochism. Inside were moments, Christmas mornings, beach trips, Sophie's 5th birthday party when the cake collapsed and we ate it with spoons anyway. In all of them, I was smiling. But the smile always stopped at my mouth. Never reached the eyes. Except for one. It was a picture I hadn't noticed before, taken by accident, maybe. I was alone on a patio, sunlight on my cheek, holding a coffee cup. And I was laughing. Fully, eyes crinkled, teeth bared, hand on heart, laughing. It was before Chloe. Before Richard started disappearing behind business trips and locked phones. I stared at that woman in the photo, and I whispered to her, "Come with me." The night before the wedding, I packed my bag with simple things. The dress, the pin, a notebook, just in case I wanted to edit my words one last time. And something else, something small, almost forgotten. A tube of lipstick. Not the beige one I used to wear to blend in. This one was crimson. Audacious, decisive. I held it in my hand for a moment before tucking it into the clutch. And as I turned off the lights and walked to my bedroom, I felt still. Not angry, not anxious. Just ready. The morning of the wedding, I stood in front of the mirror, the same one that had watched me age, cry, and pretend. I did my hair slowly, parting it to the side, pinning it with quiet elegance. I put on the lipstick. I slid into the dress. I looked myself in the eye. And then I said softly, but clearly, "You don't owe them rage, just the truth." Then I picked up my keys and walked out the door. The Windermere estate was just as I imagined. Lush green lawns sculpted to perfection, ivory arches wrapped in pale pink roses. A string quartet playing something that sounded expensive and soulless. I sat in my car for a moment longer than I needed to, hands resting on the steering wheel, watching people stream in, smiling, dressed to impress, sipping champagne before noon. I could have left then. No one would have blamed me. But I didn't come this far to sit in a parking lot. So I stepped out. The breeze lifted the hem of my dress, as if the world itself paused to notice. Eyes turned, first one, then a few more. I walked through the courtyard like someone who belonged, because I did. Not to them, not to Richard, but to myself. A hostess blinked at me as I approached the check-in table. "Name?" she asked, a bit too politely. "Marianne Thompson." Her eyes widened just a flicker and then she glanced at her clipboard. "Of course, right this way, Miss Thompson." Still, Miss, I thought. Not Mrs. anymore, not the wife. Just a name, floating free. She guided me to my seat, near the third row, close enough to see Chloe's manicured smile, but far enough not to cause a scene. Smart placement. But they didn't know I had no intention of causing one. Not yet. The ceremony hadn't started yet. Guests milled around with tiny flutes of champagne and conversations wrapped in silk and money. I heard snippets. "Did you see her dress? He really traded up, huh? That intern? She landed quite the promotion." None of them noticed me standing by the hydrangeas. Or if they did, they didn't connect the dots yet. Then I saw him. Richard. Tan, confident, wearing a tailored navy suit and the same smug charm that had once passed for charisma. He laughed too loudly, touched Chloe's back too casually. He looked content. Not euphoric, just self-satisfied, like a man who believed the past was a closed book. And Chloe was radiant in a way only someone 30 years younger and 30% unaware can be. Her dress was sheer and floaty, like something out of a perfume commercial. Her laugh tinkled. Her heels clicked. She looked at Richard like she had no idea who he used to be, and maybe that was her greatest advantage. A photographer moved through the crowd, snapping candids. He pointed the lens in my direction, hesitated, and lowered it. But not before we locked eyes. I nodded, slightly, as if to say, "Yes, I am exactly who you think I am." And no, I didn't come to be erased this time. I took my seat. The music swelled. People quieted. Then the officiant stepped up with that practiced voice that made everything sound like a real estate commercial. "We're gathered here today to celebrate the love story of Richard and Chloe." I tuned it out. I'd heard vows before. I'd written some of them myself, 35 years ago, trembling in a borrowed veil. My eyes stayed on Richard's face. He didn't look nervous. He looked smug, like a man who had rebranded his entire life and believed no one would mention the original version. Chloe held his hand tightly, smiling like she hadn't lived long enough to know that smiles fade, that promises dissolve when whispered to the wrong kind of man. The audience cooed when they exchanged vows. There were teary eyes, even applause. I stayed still, not bitter, not broken, just watching. After the ceremony, champagne flowed like cheap sincerity. People gathered under the white canopy for the reception. Place cards, flower arrangements, hors d'oeuvres I couldn't pronounce. I found my table. Number 8. Surrounded by a few vaguely familiar faces, colleagues, I assumed. No one greeted me, no one really looked. But I was used to that. Then came the clinking of silverware. The MC's voice rang out. "Before we bring out the cake, we'd like to invite a few loved ones to say a few words. If anyone would like to share a toast, the mic is yours." Silence. Then some shuffling. A cousin stood, said something sweet but forgettable. Chloe's friend made a joke about Pilates. Laughter, light applause, and then a pause. The MC looked around, hopeful. Anyone else? I felt my spine straighten. It was instinctive. I didn't think. I rose. And suddenly, the room noticed me. The woman in blue. The phoenix pin glinting just below her collarbone. The ex-wife. The ghost they didn't invite, but who came anyway. I walked toward the microphone. Chloe's smile flickered. Richard's eyes narrowed just slightly. And the room fell, utterly, beautifully silent. The microphone was cold in my hand. Not shaking. Just cold like something pulled from the bottom of a lake. I looked out across the white and gold hall, the floral arrangements, the tinkling glasses, the frozen smiles. Chloe blinked twice, lips still parted in a half smile that hadn't caught up with reality yet. Richard! Richard didn't move. His expression was unreadable, but his jaw? It clenched. Just enough for me to notice. Good. I cleared my throat gently, not dramatic, not performative, just clear. Good evening, I began. My name is Marianne. Some of you know me, some of you pretend not to. A few scattered laughs. Nervous? Shallow? I smiled. I was Richard's wife for 35 years. Gasps this time. Small? Beautiful? I wasn't planning to speak today. I came here as a guest. But then I realized I've been a guest in this story for far too long, and I thought, maybe today I'd remind you that I helped write it. Silence. I took a breath. I met Richard when we were both young and broke. I painted walls while he built his dreams. I shelved mine so he'd have room for his, and I did it with love. Not because I was weak, but because I believed in us. I looked at Chloe, gently, kindly even. And then, one day, he stopped believing. Or maybe he just got distracted. More murmurs. I won't speak poorly of Chloe. She's not the villain in this story. She's the epilogue. The part of the book that gets all the fresh ink while the earlier chapters fade. I heard someone gasp. Or maybe choke. I didn't look. I went on. This wedding is beautiful. Truly. Every detail, every petal, every smile staged perfectly. But I want you to know something that doesn't appear in the brochure. Pause. Richard didn't become the man you see today alone. I held him through failures. I celebrated his wins like they were mine. I was there when no one else clapped. I looked at Richard then, fully, squarely, and when I stopped clapping he left. That sentence landed like a stone in still water. You could feel the ripple move through the room. But I'm not bitter, I said softly. Bitterness is just love that stayed too long at the wrong address. I smiled. I came here today not to shame anyone, not to reclaim a man who was never truly mine to begin with. I came to say this, out loud, in front of everyone. I was not erased. I was not discarded. I was simply redrawn. And this moment is mine. A pause. The kind that stretches, suspended. I turned slightly toward Chloe. Chloe, may your marriage be filled with honesty, because secrets eventually become ghosts. I turned back to the crowd. And Richard, may you one day realize that the truest applause comes from someone who knew every version of you and still stayed. I gently set the mic down, not dropped, not slammed, just placed. And then I walked back to my seat. No music played. No one clapped yet. Because silence, sometimes, is the loudest reaction of all. I didn't stay for the cake. I walked out through the rose-lined arches just as the band was setting up for the first dance. No one tried to stop me. No one said a word. Which was fine. I wasn't looking for applause. I wasn't expecting cheers. But what I didn't expect was the sound of a phone vibrating in my purse before I even reached the parking lot. A message. Then another. And then dozens. Did you seriously say that? Marianne, you're trending. Turn on the news. Apparently, someone in the crowd had recorded my toast. And posted it. With a caption that simply read, "The classiest mic drop in wedding history." By the time I got home, the video had over 300 views. By morning, it hit 1 million. Talk shows were quoting me. Women stitched the video on TikTok with teary eyes and soft nods. Podcasts called me the voice of every woman who ever gave too much and got too little. Someone even made merchandise. Bitterness is just love that stayed too long at the wrong address printed on mugs, shirts, tote bags. I didn't laugh. I didn't cry. I just watched it all unfold. Quietly. Gratefully. Almost as if I were watching someone else's life. Until I realized this was mine. By day 3, I got a call from a woman named Danielle from the Women's Hour, a nationally syndicated radio show. Marianne, we'd love to have you come on and talk about the speech. Women everywhere are calling it the most graceful revenge ever delivered. Revenge. Was that what they called it? I never once raised my voice. Never called him names, never humiliated Chloe. But somehow telling the truth had become an act of defiance. And maybe it was. Because in a world where women like me are supposed to fade away quietly after the papers are signed, I spoke. And people listened. Then came the second wave, the personal one. A message from my niece in Ohio. Auntie M, you're a legend. My friends sent me your video before I even told them you were related to me. An email from my old high school art teacher. You always had the words, I'm glad you finally used them for yourself. And then, a voicemail from a number I recognized without even looking. Richard. His voice was strained. Marianne, I didn't know people were recording. I didn't think you didn't have to say all that in front of everyone. A pause. I guess I deserved it. Another pause. Call me back if you want, or don't. I'm sorry. Click. I didn't call him back. There was nothing left to say that hadn't already been said. I heard from Chloe too indirectly. Her Instagram vanished. Her company's website took down all wedding photos. I saw a headline float by, Young CEO takes social media break after viral wedding speech sparks debate. Debate? That's what they were calling it now? Apparently, some people thought I was cruel, that I should have let them have their moment, that I ambushed a sacred ceremony. But for every critic, there were 100 women saying, thank you, I felt seen. A week after the wedding, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address. It was from an 81-year-old widow in Michigan. I lost my voice in a marriage that lasted 49 years. I watched your speech with my granddaughter, and for the first time, she asked me what I was really like before I got married. Thank you for reminding me I had a before, and that it still matters. I read that line 3 times. Then I sat at my kitchen table, in the soft light of morning, and began to write. Not a journal, not a letter. A book proposal. Title: The Art of Leaving Gracefully. I didn't write it for Richard, or Chloe, or the tabloids. I wrote it for the women who sit quietly in the 3rd row of someone else's story, wondering if they'll ever get a chapter of their own. And somewhere along the way, I found mine. That week, I received an email from a TEDx organizer in Boston. We'd love for you to share your story on our stage. Your voice matters especially to women who think theirs no longer does. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I smiled, reached for my Phoenix pin, and replied, I'd be honored. The stage was smaller than I imagined. Simple red circle, soft lighting, a glass of water beside a single chair. But when you step into that light, it feels like standing inside your own heartbeat. The audience was full. Mostly women, some my age, some younger. A few with silver hair and eyes that had seen entire lives bloom and break and rebuild again. I walked to the center slowly, not nervously. Deliberately. The same way I walked into that wedding 3 months ago. Only this time, I wasn't walking into someone else's story. I was standing in mine. I took a breath. My name is Marianne Thompson. I'm 62 years old. I'm a mother, an artist, and until recently, I was also the woman you didn't notice. A pause. Not because I was forgettable, but because I got very, very good at making other people comfortable. There was soft laughter. For 35 years, I was a wife, a loyal one, a quiet one, the one who never made a scene, who smoothed the napkins, who kept the calendar. I looked out into the sea of faces. Until the day my husband invited me to his wedding. With the woman he left me for. You could feel the air shift. I went, not to cause trouble, not to ruin their day. I went because I realized something far more dangerous than heartbreak had happened to me. I had vanished. And no one noticed, Not even me. I smiled not bitterly, but clearly. So I gave a toast. I told the truth. In a room full of curated beauty and rehearsed promises, I stood up and spoke, without apology. A few claps, restrained, the respectful kind. I continued, and suddenly women everywhere began writing to me. Not because I was special, but because I had said out loud what so many of us whisper into our pillows. I held up my hand and began to count on my fingers. I gave everything. I forgot how to ask for anything. I thought staying quiet was noble. I thought disappearing meant strength. And then I looked straight ahead. Let me say this to any woman listening who has ever felt erased. You are not too late. You are not invisible. And you are not done. Applause now, gentle. Building. I didn't win anyone back. I didn't burn anything down. I just stepped out of the background. And when I did, I found something no man ever gave me. My voice. And once you find that, you never forget the sound of it again. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out something small, delicate. A copy of my Phoenix pin. I held it in my palm. This was a gift I gave myself, not because I rose from the ashes, but because I finally realized I was never the fire. I was the match. Applause again, this time louder, rising. Tears in a few eyes. And mine? Just one. After the talk, women lined up to hug me. Some didn't say anything, they just took my hand, pressed it, and moved on. A teenager handed me a drawing. A woman in a navy blue dress, standing with a microphone, flames in her hair. At the bottom, in shaky pencil, "Thank you for not being quiet." I keep it above my desk. Right beside a framed quote I wrote for myself the night I walked away from that wedding. I was not erased, I was redrawn. Richard never called again. I heard he and Chloe postponed their honeymoon. Rumors swirled. It didn't matter. For once, their story wasn't the one people were talking about. Mine was. Not because it was louder, but because it was finally mine. These days, I paint again. Not still lifes, not landscapes. Women. In motion, in mid-sentence, in color so bold it dares the eye to look away. And people buy them. Not just because they're beautiful, but because they recognize themselves in each brushstroke. So if you're listening to this story, if you're sitting alone in your kitchen, wondering if the best parts of your life are already over, they're not. Sometimes, the story doesn't begin until the curtain has already fallen. And if no one ever handed you the mic, pick it up anyway. Say your name, and start again.